We come with empty hands and we will go with empty hands. So what is the point of claiming so much in the meantime? But this is what we know, what the world tells us. Possess, dominate, have more than others have. It may be money or it may be virtue. It does not matter in what kind of coins you deal. They may be worldly, they may be otherworldly, but be very clever, otherwise you will be exploited. Exploit and don't be exploited. That is the subtle message given to you with your mother's milk. And every school, college, university is rooted in the idea of competition. A real education will not teach you to compete. It will teach you to cooperate. It will not teach you to fight and come first. It will teach you to be creative, to be loving, to be blissful, without comparing yourself to others. It will not teach you that you can be happy only when you are the first. That is sheer nonsense. You can't be happy just by being first, and in trying to be first you go through such misery that by the time you become the first you are habituated to misery. By the time you become the president or the prime minister of a country, you have gone through such misery that now misery is your second nature. You don't know now any other way to exist. You remain miserable. Tension has become ingrained. Anxiety has become your way of life. You don't know any other way. This is your very lifestyle. So even though you have become the first, you remain cautious, anxious, afraid. It does not change your inequality at all. Real education will not teach you to be the first. It will tell you to enjoy whatever you are doing, not for the result, but for the act itself. Just like a painter or a dancer or a musician. You can paint in two ways. You can paint to compete with other painters. You want to be the greatest painter in the world, you want to be a Picasso or a Van Gogh. Then your painting will be second-rate because your mind is not interested in painting itself. It is interested in being the first, the greatest painter in the world. You are not going deep into the art of painting. You are not enjoying it. You are only using it as a stepping stone. You are on an ego trip. And the problem is that to really be a painter, you have to drop the ego completely. To really be a painter, the ego has to be put aside. Only then can existence flow through you. Only then can your hands and your fingers and your brush be used as vehicles. Only then can something of superb beauty be born. Real beauty is never created by you, but only through you. Existence flows. You become only a passage. You allow it to happen, that's all. You don't hinder it, that's all. But if you are too interested in the result, the ultimate result, that you have to become famous, that you have to be the best painter in the world, that you have to defeat all other painters hitherto, then your interest is not in painting. Painting is secondary. And of course, with a secondary interest in painting, you can't paint something original. It will be ordinary. Ego cannot bring anything extraordinary into the world. The extraordinary comes only through egolessness. And so is the case with the musician and the poet and the dancer. So is the case with everybody. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Don't think of the result at all. It is a message of tremendous beauty and significance and truth. Don't think of the result at all. Just do what you are doing with your totality. Get lost in it. Lose the doer in the doing. Don't be. Let your creative energies flow unhindered." That's why he said to Arjuna, "Don't escape from the war because I can see this escape is just an ego trip. The way you are talking simply shows that you are calculating. You are thinking that by escaping from the war, you will become a great saint. Rather than surrendering to the whole, you are taking yourself too seriously, as if there will be no war if you are not there." Krishna says to Arjuna, "Just be in a state of let go. Say to existence, use me in whatever way you want to use me. I am available, unconditionally available. Then whatsoever happens through you will have a great authenticity about it. It will have intensity. It will have depth. It will have the impact of the eternal on it." Jesus says, remember, those who are first in this world will be the last in the kingdom of God. And those who are the last will be the first. He has given you the fundamental law. He has given you the inexhaustible eternal law. Stop trying to be the first. But remember one thing, which is very much possible, because the mind is so cunning, it can distort every truth. You can start trying to be the last, but then you miss the whole point. Then another competition starts. I have to be the last, and if somebody else says I'm the last, then the struggle, the conflict begins again. Now you see, the competition is still there, the same competition, the same stupidity. Nothing has changed, the same calculation. I have to be the last. Nobody else can be allowed to be the last. The mind can go on playing such games on you if you are not very understanding, if you are not very intelligent. Never try to be happy at the expense of another man's happiness. That is ugly, inhuman. That is violence in the true sense. If you think you become a saint by condemning others as sinners, your saintliness is nothing but a new ego trip. If you think you are holy because you are trying to prove others unholy, that's what your holy people are doing. They go on bragging about their holiness, saintliness. Go to your so-called saints and look into their eyes. They have such condemnation for you. They're saying that you are all bound for hell. They go on condemning everybody. Listen to their sermons. All their sermons are condemnatory. And of course, you listen silently to their condemnations because you know that you have made many mistakes in your life, errors in your life. And they have condemned everything, so it is impossible to feel that you can be good. You love food, you are a sinner. You don't get up early in the morning, you are a sinner. You don't go to bed early in the evening, you are a sinner. They have arranged everything in such a way that it is very difficult not to be a sinner. Yes, they are not sinners. They go early to bed and they get up early in the morning. In fact, they have nothing else to do. They never commit any mistakes because they never do anything. They are just sitting there almost dead. But if you do something, of course, how can you be holy? Hence, for centuries, the holy man has been renouncing the world and escaping from the world because to be in the world and be holy seems to be impossible. My whole approach is that unless you are in the world, your holiness is of no value at all. Be in the world and be holy. We have to define holiness in a totally different way. Don't live at the expense of others' pleasures. That is holiness. Don't destroy others' happiness. Help others to be happy. That is holiness. Create the climate in which everybody can have a little joy. If you are in pursuit of happiness, one thing is certain, you are not going to get it. Happiness is always a byproduct. It is not the result of a direct pursuit. The most important question of all questions is, what is true happiness? And is there a possibility to achieve it? Is true happiness possible at all, or is all momentary? Is life only a dream, or is there something substantial in it too? Does life begin with birth and end with death, or is there something that transcends birth and death? Because without the eternal, there is no possibility of true happiness. With the momentary, happiness will remain fleeting. One moment it is here, the other moment gone, and you are left in great despair and darkness. That's how it is in ordinary life, in the life of the unawakened. There are moments of bliss and there are moments of misery. It is all mixed, a hodgepodge. You cannot keep those moments of happiness that come to you. They come on their own and they disappear on their own. You are not the master. And you cannot avoid the moments of misery. They too have their own persistence. They come on their own and they go on their own. You are simply a victim. And between these two, happiness and unhappiness, you are torn apart. You are never left at ease. This being torn apart into all kinds of dualities, the duality of happiness and unhappiness is the most fundamental and the most symptomatic. But there are 1,001 dualities, the duality of love and hate, the duality of life and death, day and night, summer and winter, youth and old age, and so on and so forth. But the fundamental duality, the duality that represents all other dualities, is that of happiness and unhappiness. And you are torn apart, pulled into different polar opposite directions. You cannot be at ease. You are in a dis-ease. According to the Buddha's, man is a disease. Is this disease absolute, or can it be transcended? Hence, the basic and the most fundamental question is, what is true happiness? Certainly the happiness that we know is not true. It is dream stuff, and it always turns into its own opposite. What looks like happiness one moment turns into unhappiness the next. Happiness turning into unhappiness simply shows that the two are not separate, maybe two aspects of the same coin. And if you have one side of the coin, the other is always there hidden behind it, waiting for its opportunity to assert, and you know it. When you are happy, deep down, somewhere is the lurking fear that it is not going to last, that sooner or later it will be gone, that the night is descending, that any moment you will be engulfed in darkness, that this light is just imaginary. It can't help you. It can't take you to the other shore. Your happiness is not really happiness, but only a hidden unhappiness. Your love is not love, but only a mask for your hate. Your compassion is nothing but your anger, cultivated, sophisticated, educated, cultured, civilized, but your compassion is nothing else than anger. Your sensitivity is not real sensitivity, but only a mental exercise, a certain attitude and approach practiced. Remember, the whole of humanity is being brought up with the idea that virtue can be practiced, that goodness can be practiced, that one can learn how to be happy, that one can manage to be happy, that it is within one's power to create a certain character which brings happiness. And that is all wrong, utterly wrong. The first thing to be understood about happiness is that it cannot be practiced. It has only to be allowed because it is not something that you create. Whatsoever you create is going to remain something smaller than you, tinier than you. What you create cannot be bigger than you. The painting cannot be bigger than the painter himself, and the poetry cannot be bigger than the poet. Your song is bound to be something smaller than you. If you practice happiness, you will be always there at the back with all your stupidities, with all your ego trips, with all your ignorance, with all your chaos of the mind. With this chaotic mind, you cannot create a cosmos. You cannot create grace. Grace always descends from the beyond. It has to be received as a gift in tremendous trust, in total surrender. In a state of let go, true happiness happens. But we have been told to achieve, to be ambitious. Our mind has been cultivated to be that of an achiever. Our education, culture, religion, they all depend on this basic idea that man has to be ambitious. Only the ambitious man will be able to attain fulfillment. It has never happened, it will never happen, but so deep is the ignorance that we go on believing in this nonsense.